Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Melissa Mullen with Beck Technology, and here today I have with me Brian Marks, Senior Estimator at the Korte Company. Brian is going to talk to us today just about some of the unique challenges his team has faced through 2020, some of the trends that they're looking forward to in 2021, and also why he and his team decided to consolidate multiple tools and go all in to one platform. With that being said, Brian, I want to hand it over to you. Would you mind sharing a little bit just about your work and your history in pre-construction?
Sure. And for those who've probably tuned into some of these webinars over the last few years, this won't be the first time you've probably seen me or heard me talk. So I've done a couple of these and been glad to do so every time I was invited by the Beck Group. Um, so I am, as Melissa said, a senior estimator here at the Korte Company. I've been back with them about 7.5 years, specifically in pre-construction and as an estimator. Had some estimating experience prior to that as well with Korte and some other companies that I'd worked with. So I got, I think, uh, just past 21 years of construction experience. So did a little bit of oil field work right out of college as a geological engineer, and quickly learned I did not want to do that lifestyle. So transitioned to construction and been in it for about 21 years now. So um, as far as the kind of the software side of things, when I rejoined Korte back in 2013, I kind of put my hand up and volunteered to help with the software, and kind of did the maintenance part of it. And then when we looked to make some transitions in estimating software and some of our bid invitation software, I've kind of led that up uh, uh, as we made those transitions. So kind of a mix of technologies along with my senior estimator role here at Korte. So I've been heavily involved in conversations, implementations for both DESTINI Estimator and, like I said, some bid invitation systems that we've transitioned through over the years as well. Um, so that's kind of my background, where I'm at, and kind of how I got requested to talk today. So I'm going to say I'm by no means an expert on any of the topics that will be coming up. It'll be based on my point of view, and hopefully the group finds it a little bit insightful, or at least gets them thinking about something, and maybe we'll see some questions that gets me thinking about ways we can better ourselves over here at Korte as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And a quick side note to those of you who are online, we have a little questions box for you. Feel free to ask whatever you want, even if we can't get to it during the broadcast. We will definitely follow up by email. That being said, Brian, one of the first things I was really wanting to ask you was, this has been a really unique year with a lot of ups and downs. So I was wondering if you could just kind of talk to what were some of the challenges that your team faced, and what are some ways what are some challenges that you think were common to the industry this year, and some ways that you and your team handled that?
So for us, like I said, COVID obviously is the big wild card curveball that everyone was throwing back at the towards the beginning of the year. So for Korte, it was about mid-March when we chose to basically close down the offices and send everyone out remotely. So the one thing that I would say, at least from our pre-construction department and probably even our project management and others, is because we're a national contractor, we're used to already kind of have the ability to go remote. So most of us are equipped with laptops. We got 4 offices plus a couple other remote workers in our pre-construction department. So we are already used to, handling, our conversations and stuff through Zoom meetings and stuff like that. So our technology wise, we were kind of already set up for the tools to make the transition to remote. It's just we it kind of forced our hands, and so we I think we handled it really well. The company allowed us to take docking stations home if we needed to, multiple monitors. Most of our group was luckily enough had good internet services, so we really were able to keep up the collaboration. Yeah, it was more of a using the chat functionality through our phone systems or Zoom meetings to do that for even the people that we used to be, right outside of my office or down the hallway a little bit. So it was a little challenging there for a while. We uh, did open the offices back up at the beginning of June as optional. So over across the company, I would say we're in that 35 to 40% of us have elected to come back and work in the office. But the others have been allowed and even encouraged if it made sense from a work-life balance, whether it's remote kids or whatever the need was to stay work at home. The company's been very supportive of it. So we transitioned well, and then we're slowly transitioning back and kind of like everyone else looking for the light at the end of the tunnel where things get back to, I'm going to say, a new normal. I don't think we're ever going to go back to where we were pre-COVID. Uh, and that might be a good thing. Some of these work-life balance things and working remotely a little bit more are things that have been talked about in other industries and not as probably as well adopted in construction. And we may see more of that come through and allow you, from a talent evaluation to take a better look at people that might not necessarily want to live in where your offices are, and you can still manage to make it work through the remote process that we've kind of were forced into this year.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, Brian. And speaking of working remote, being able to continue to collaborate, even if some people are in the office, some are remote. I know that a lot of what we've heard from people in pre-construction has been that tools are critical to this success. Having the right pre-construction software is really essential to making the transition that you're talking about. Um, and I know that Korte recently has gone all in on one platform. And specifically, I know that the 2D takeoff was a really big part of that. Could you talk a little bit about that, why that was the best decision for Korte, and if you don't mind really diving into that 2D takeoff aspect of it as well?
Okay, so yeah, back when we moved to Destiny Estimator back in 2017, but when we were evaluating the estimating softwares out there, we really saw the trend towards integrated platforms and just trying to consolidate and be able to work in a single platform from an estimating and a takeoff standpoint. So it was definitely high on the evaluation and trying to minimize tools that were jumping in and out. Um, so we saw that with Destiny Estimator being able to reside in uh, one platform. It's taken a while. Like I said, we started those discussions back in. We implemented at the end of 2017. We mentioned it. We mentioned it again the end of 18. We strongly mentioned it in 19, and we have finally basically told everyone that we will no longer be supporting OST from a 2D takeoff. So we've been transitioning early adopters. Someone like myself who pushed for it. Obviously, I needed to walk the walk. So I've been out of OST for basically since the beginning of 2018 when we kind of implemented and trained on the 2D aspects of Destiny Estimator. So but basically, we're working across three different tools: Destiny Estimators, 2D Takeoff, Bluebeam, and OST. And we felt like now we've been in it long enough. We've seen the enhancements to the 2D Takeoff inside of Estimator, and we felt like we really needed to drop a tool just from a yeah, you might be less productive while you're learning the tool, but once you get going in it, we feel like the platform's strong enough to do the bulk of the takeoff that we're used to doing in OST. And then for me personally, trying to emphasize the um, eliminating the possibility of data entry errors. Trying to transfer takeoff quantities from a OST spreadsheet or something like that, and manually be typing it in. So part of the mapping process is set to get improved with auto costing coming out in Estimator. So we've definitely been watching that ever since the discussions were coming up. I think that will be a big game changer from my standpoint, and getting buy-in from my group to see the benefit of auto costing inside of Estimator. But even before that gets rolled out, trying to get them used to the interactions and the keystrokes inside of Estimator, and just they're a little different, but it's still kind of the same processes of taking off areas, counts, and linear takeoff. So yeah, we're kind of forcing their hand with that, and we'll see how that goes. From the 3D aspect has always been in there. Just the way our workflow, we don't usually have access to too many models early on, but that is one of the items that we like, that it's integrated as well. So we do hold a few licenses of BIM 360 for managing the documents. So yeah, we've been trying to consolidate software that our users are in. So they rebuilt me a new computer a few months back, and our IT person that set it up for me is like, really, this is all the software you need on your computer? Because she's so used to having to load so many different pieces of software for the users, regardless of pre-construction or project management or whatever. So between the handful of web-based tools and from uh, software that we need on the computer, I was able to clean up a lot of stuff that was floating around on that old computer by this. And that's part of it, is less tools that we're in and out of, reducing data entry errors. And I think once you use the tool long enough, we'll see that uptick in productivity as well.
That's amazing. Bren, there's a couple of things that I want to dive a little bit deeper into with that being said. The first thing is, yeah, it sounds like you're really excited about 2D takeoff, which is awesome. What's the feedback that you've heard from your team? Were people excited going into 2D takeoff? Were there any hesitations? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
So I mean, and it's not even I can't even blame it on a generational thing, because I've seen young estimators, older estimators, just depending on I think like we talked about personality of the person, and the ability and willingness to accept technology and new changes. So some people are just hard to get them out of that comfort level. They've been using OST from, some of them in college or for I don't know how many years, and it's like I know it, and I don't want to take the time to learn it. So yeah, that's just been kind of the hardest struggle, is the adoption. And you can't even say it's the old guys like me. I've seen it in younger estimators as well. So yeah, things are different. Some of the functionality that they can do in OST isn't quite there in Estimator yet, but we know it's coming. Like I said, we when we picked Estimator, we saw the innovation of Beck Technology and their ability to want to make the product better and allow us to be a part of that. So that we understood there might be some things as it's getting built out, but hey, we get a voice and kind of how it's getting built out. So yeah, 2D has definitely come a long way in the last few years, and I think we're definitely going to, the next time we kind of talk about it, and we're talking about it again here in a week or so. And like I said, they're going to have to make the choice to do it or not, by the end of the year when we stop using OST. But um, yeah, we're having to force them a little bit. But I think we've been talking to them enough about it, and I think they've, even some of those younger guys, I've got phone calls from them saying, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? So the message came across, and I think once they've got into it a little bit more, they found it. Hey, it really isn't that much different than what we did before.
That's awesome. Yeah, it always you always have that adjustment period, but that's amazing that your team has kind of started to get into the flow of that. That's really incredible. The other quick piece that I wanted to talk to was we got a question from one of our audience members. They wanted to know, how do you guys use Destiny Estimator to help in procurement?
Um, so I mean, and they could have gone back into the intro. So we do about 95% of our work is design build. And a lot of it is competitive design build where, we're putting together estimates in Destiny at conceptual. Um, and a lot of times we're living with that price and that budget. So we're not doing a lot of downstream estimate updates and updating inside of Estimator. We do have negotiated projects that we do in it, but it's a smaller portion of what we do. So a lot of times we're transferring cost in pretty early on in the project for competitive GMP early on, and a lot of our management is of documents and subcontractors. So we don't self-perform a whole lot. We're the design build general contractor. We can still go out and do some of the carpentry work if we're local to the St. Louis, Missouri area. We still consider doing foundations ourselves if we want to. But for the most part, we're establishing those budgets early on, and then we're just managing the subcontractors and the documents from a document control, scope control, through the rest of the design process. So as far as how it ties into procurement, for Korte, there isn't a real big tie into, cost management downstream of through design. It's up front some of those negotiated projects.
Awesome. Thank you for that insight, Brian. I think we are running up on the end of our time here, but the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was, 2020, we've seen a lot of exciting trends and changes. We've seen the importance of having a centralized estimating platform, having vendors that you can collaborate with that will be responsive to you and be able to adapt to whatever your situation is. What are some of the trends that you're most excited for 2021? What do you think is going to really impact the pre-con industry in that year, and what are you really excited about?
So from uh, things that we're ready to see, I guess personally for us, and with regards to Beck Technology, is there's a couple big pieces of functionality that they're definitely on their uh, looking to come out and roll out in 2021, and we've been talking a little bit more about that. So the auto costing feature that I mentioned back up in 2D, we see that as being a big piece of technology help for us moving forward. And then the bid day functionality that I think we're getting some more information on that. So uh, that's specifically to our Las Vegas office, who is using bid day, but we feel like we can adopt that across the company to help us do better bid analysis. So those are two things that it got me excited to see uh, the Destiny Estimator take the next two big steps going forward. So, and then kind of globally, I probably in our marketing department would know more about it, is as we do move out of the COVID area, and just trying to identify those markets that we think are going to recover quickest, and make sure that we're positioned in a way to compete and capture some of that. So we've been fortunate, and I think most of us, as a construction industry, to be still considered essential businesses. So we've been able to keep most of our projects going. The way we're diversified, we haven't seen a lot of our projects impacted. Um, we do some hospitality and some healthcare, and I think from what I hear, those have probably been impacted more so than the military construction distribution centers and some of the other sectors that we work in. So we've been fortunate, and but we want to definitely keep an eye out on those other markets moving forward in 2021. So as people get more comfortable and they get better insight on where we're going, make sure the Korte Company is aligned to follow those trends and still work on it. So that's that's our business development group, more leading those to hear us in pre-construction to do our thing.
That's awesome, though, Brian, and I have no doubt that you guys are going to accomplish that. Your team is just an incredibly innovative group of people, and you've already accomplished so much in the industry, and so it's going to be really exciting to see what y'all do in 2021. And with that being said, we are at the end of our time together. Brian, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come join us and talk about these things. For those of you still online, just as an FYI, you will be receiving a recording of this webinar afterwards, and anyone that registered will also get a recording, even if they couldn't attend live. Please keep an eye on our calendar at beck-technology.com for the date of the next webinar. And with that being said, thank you all so much for being here. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, guys.